G'day everybody, Nick Dingle here again for another VB.NET tutorial. This time around we're going to be talking about file dialogues, how you make them, how you use them, and how they're so freaking awesome. Alright, you may have, maybe once or twice if you've ever used any Windows program ever, seen one of these things. Now this right here is a file dialog. To be specific, it's an open file dialog, okay? It's built into Windows, it has a lot of functionality already built into the core, and you'll notice that depending on what version of Windows you're using, I'm back to 8.1 these days, and you'll notice that it's got its own specific file open dialog. Windows 7 had a different one, so did XP, but they all do the same thing. Now, programmers didn't go out of their way to try and recreate these things from scratch, they just utilize Windows. And just like the open file dialog, we have a save file dialog. So I'm going to create a new WPF application, call it File Dialog, and you can follow me along the way. So to design our interface today, I'm going to add in a few things. To start with, I'm going to change my grid to a stack panel because I just think they're easier to work with when it comes to tutorials. I'm going to make another stack panel because what I'm going to have a text box and a label stuck together here on the side. So that's going to be a stack panel orientated horizontally, I should say. And inside that, I want a label, and the label is going to say file name. Alright, and secondly, I want a text box. I'm going to have to name this, not a block, and I'm going to have to name this guy txt, let's call him file name. Alright, change his font size because I want it a bit bigger. Let's make it 16, and I'm going to set the width of him so he's actually got a fair amount of width to begin with. So let's say 450 is probably a good width, and that's enough for our text box. Under that, I want to create a couple of buttons. So the first button, which I'm going to set its font size to 16 as well. He's going to have a click event. Oh my gosh, I've got fat fingers today. And he's just going to say open file. So you can probably guess what's going to happen when we click on that button. And I'm going to copy and paste that button. Boom, boom. And this is going to be our save file, but with a new click event. Please make sure you do that. And then finally, I'm going to have a list box down the bottom. Now we're going to use all these things at different points in the video. So if you can get them on your form, if you want to follow me as well, that'd be great. If you're just listening, well, hell, join the party and let's get started. Okay, so basically all I'm going to do is we're going to use the text box to basically come up with the file name that the user has selected. Okay, the list box is going to come into its own when we do multiple files in an open file dialog. So rather than me explaining all that stuff just yet, let's get into it here in the code section. So when you are creating an open file dialog, so remember the button click was the open file button, and so this is going to be for the open file dialog. Now by default, you don't have the namespace which is required to create these file dialogs. Now what the hell am I talking about there? Well, first of all, when you want to use an open file dialog, you have to create a variable which is of an open file dialog type. Now, back when you were using Windows Forms, there was actually a control inside your toolbox. That's no longer the case in WPF Applications. You just have to create it using code. All right, it's actually really easy to do. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new file open dialog. All right, and just like we've always done, we're going to dim. I'm just going to call it open file as, and you have to put new, not net, new. And the name we're looking for is Open File Dialog. Now you'll notice that all of a sudden it's not there, it doesn't exist. I would have to go into Microsoft.Win32. There's the Open File Dialog. Okay, so this is looking really, really ugly. And this is where we're going to use the imports command up the top. And I'm going to import this namespace. So I'm going to go imports Microsoft.Win32. And what that allows us to do is actually just get rid of this and shorten it down to Open File Dialog. So everything that is inside the Win32 library, or namespace is actually the correct term for it, will be accessible straight away to us. Okay, so this is how you declare an Open File Dialog. Now, there's a little bit of setting up that goes along with it, and there's a tiny bit of usage with it. And we're going to start with the easy stuff, and we're going to work our way up. Now, if I want to display my Open File Dialog, it's as simple as going openfile.show dialog. That's it. That's all I actually have to do. And if I run my program and hit open file, you'll see it open up a blank nothing changed OpenFile Dialog. You'll see it just says open, there's no icon on the side, it's just got open and cancel, and it doesn't have a file type on the side either, which you may have noticed sometimes, but it does allow me to go around my computer in different ways. There's my video, and it allows me to click the open or the cancel button, just like you normally would expect. So it's got some built-in behavior, but it's pretty bare bones at the moment. So whenever you create an OpenFile dialog, you're best off setting up the dialog as you go along. The first thing is we need to change that title at the top. It just says open at the moment. I would like to make that a little bit nicer. So to change that, you simply go openfile.title equals, and whatever you want to say. It's a string, so you can put any kind of words or numbers in there. So let's say for this particular example, guys, my OpenFile dialog is going to be for documents. All right. So I'm just going to write select a document to open. ... Because I don't know, ... just always seems really neat in that sense. And now if I quickly run it, you'll see there it is, select a document to open in the title of the file dialog. Now we actually have a lot of options with this. Another one that's pretty useful sometimes is the initial directory. So this is the initial directory that is open when the file dialog opens up. And now let's say, for example, that you want it, documents are often stored in the documents folder. Let's say I want the initial directory to open up straight to my documents. Okay, it's actually really easy to do that. So I'm going to go initial directory equals, and to get, because everyone's my documents folder is in a different location because everyone has different names for their profiles, to find it we go my.computer.file system, I was getting ahead of myself, .special directories .my documents. And you can see there's heaps of those special directories, by the way, and you can use any one of them at any time if you want. Let me close these guys so we can see more of the code. So now when I run it and open my dialog, you can see it's already in my documents folder, which is just very, very handy to have actually. It can be good and disastrous using the initial directory setting. One example would be, let's say for instance, I don't have any documents here, you can see that. Let's say I have to go to Dropbox, I have to go through all of my folders, and I find one here. And I go open, and I go, oh crap, it wasn't that file I wanted something close to it. If I hit open file again, it goes back to the documents folder, not the last folder I used. So if I didn't have this initial directory setting, and I open my file, you'll see it goes back to the folder I last opened a file from. And that's actually really handy, I find. So it's up to you whether or not your program uses this setting. I personally don't like it, but you might see a lot of benefit for having that. Alright, the next thing is, right now we can open any single file that we want. So for example, I can go to my desktop and I can open up that file there. Doesn't make sense because I want documents. I don't want shortcuts or executables or anything else. So what we're adding there, everyone, is called a filter. Okay? And the way these are structured is you first of all, you put the name of the filter first. So if I want Word documents, I could go Microsoft Word documents, just like so. And that's what's going to appear to the user. Okay? Now the actual filter itself, however, I have to put on the other side of a a vertical line. So this is what's displayed to the user, and what's on this side is what the system uses. So, for example, if you're the person out there that knows what kind of file extension Word documents use, and I hope most of you do being programmers, it's a docx file, so docx. Now, I can't do it like this, unfortunately. This is actually a file extension, and file extensions follow a dot. Okay? And what I'm going to write is asterisk dot docx. So this is what you call a wildcard, and an asterisk means any bloody name for the file. So asterisk can cover any kind of docx file. All right. So I could have 50 documents with different names, but they're all documents because they'd have docx as their file extension. So this would match up to every file that's a document. So if I run the program now, not only has it added in Microsoft Word documents there, you'll see it even says docx without me having to type it, but you notice that a lot of the files are gone because it's filtering them out. But if I go to that place where I found the other file, I really shouldn't bury it so deeply. It still produces docx files, okay? And I can click open on it. which is really bloody handy. Let's say that's not the only type of document out there, because it isn't, okay? Let's say we want some more. Well, really, what you want to do then is put another vertical line and then put as many file filters as you want. Another kind of document is a rich text file. Very old school, but I'm going to put it in anyway. Its file extension is RTF, rich text file, and I'm not going to explain where that came from because it's a little bit crude, hilarious but crude. And now when I look at the filter, you see I've got both of them, and I can actually switch between them. Now I don't have any RTF documents because they're so uncommon these days, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And there's always, I think, room for adding the last one called all files. Okay, so we're not filtering to docx files or RTF files. So what we do is you put asterisk dot asterisk, and this allows the user to see every kind of file once again. So if I come to here, if I change this to all files, you'll see my files reappear because of me selecting that new file extension. Alright, and it's a good idea to have all files at the end because some users like to do that just in case they screwed up the naming of their files or something. But that's pretty much it. Now, I haven't actually shown you, I've shown you how to set up the dialog, I've shown you how to do that kind of stuff. I haven't shown you how to properly show the dialog yet. Okay, this just simply opens the window, displays it, and when I press open or cancel, it just gets rid of the dialog, and most of the information is lost, in fact. Really, what I want to know is the file name that is selected. So if they click on that exercise, I think it was 2.1 computers, I want it to go inside my text box. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is just to go the text file dot text equals openFile dot file name. Okay, so store the file name. So whatever I double click on or I click on and then press open is stored inside of this property called file name. And then now the hard work is done for the OpenFile dialog. It's entirely up to you at this point to figure out what you want to do with this file. So if it's your own game or if it's your own program and these are your type of files you're loading, you're going to have to be the one that figures out what to do once they've selected the file they want to open. So I can't help you with that in this video. Alright, it depends on the program, it depends on the data. But let's just make sure this file name works. Let's go open file. I'm going to go over to, I think I've got a quicker one. If I go to there and docs, yep, there's heaps of quicker ones. And there's the name of my file. So not only does it include the file name, it includes the total path of how to get there. So you can see D drive, Dropbox, school, my class name, documents, and there's the file name with the file extension on the end. So you can use this inside an open file command straight away. Okay? And the one great thing is, generally speaking, if a file name comes from a file open dialog, you can almost guarantee the file is going to exist. Okay? And there's one error that you never have to worry about ever again. Now the only problem is, if I click open file now and click cancel, it's actually not that good. So let's say, for example, I'll show you the issue that's actually going to occur because that wasn't a good representation. Let's click on that one. If I click open file and click cancel, you'll see it's emptied my text box because they have not selected a file. They didn't want to not select a file, they just wanted to cancel what they were doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an if statement to this, and it has to do with this show dialog. If I just quickly mouse over it, you'll see show dialog is a function which returns a boolean. Don't worry about the question mark at the end. I won't talk about them in this video. I'm going to go if the show dialog equals true and put a then. I'm going to put the end if under this guy. That actually means that they click the open button. If they click the cancel button, it returns false. Or if they click the close in the top right hand corner, that also will return a false. So let me quickly open a file. Can I go recent places? Nope. Assessments, that one. Docs, that one. If I click open file now and click cancel, you'll see it doesn't change the file name, okay, which is actually a sort of a good thing in my opinion. And as I said, clicking this X in the top corner is the same as pressing cancel. So it's always a good idea to have an if statement around this show dialog, okay? So remember that for the future, people. Now, that's pretty much it for the file open dialog. There's one last thing I want to talk about, and this is if you want to be able to select multiple files in this file dialog, okay? So I'm going to go to openFile.MultiSelect and make it true, because by default it's false. And this allows us just by changing that. I'm going to quickly change this to all files and go to my desktop, because that's the quickest way. I can now, holding Control, select more than one file. But you may notice one thing. So construct is the first one selected. Keep that in mind. The file name only returns a single file. Okay? So what we need to do now, this is where the list box comes in. We're going to go through every single file that they've selected, and we're going to put them inside our list box. So let's destroy some code here, guys. Let's destroy this bit. Okay, and then add in our code. The first thing I'm going to do is clear out the list box just in case there's anything in it to begin with, because it's always good practice. And now what we have to do is loop through the files, okay? And it's really easy to do this. We're going to go for each file name as a string inside open files, file name, and then right there, names, okay? Press enter. So what this is going to do is it's going to loop through every single file that's selected, okay? And each time it goes from the first file, that'll be set into file name. Then it'll go to second file, and that'll be set into file name. And same thing until we run out of files. So I'm just going to add each file name to the list box. So list files.items.add file name. Just like that. So clear the list box, go through every single file from the OpenFile dialog, add them to the list box. Okay, open file, desktop, again, let's go all files, because it's just quicker for me to do this way. And there's every single program loaded up one by one. Okay, so this is how you use multi-select in the thing. So that's pretty much the OpenFile dialog done and dusted. I'd like to talk about the SaveFile dialog now. He's much, much quicker because I've taught you all the basics. I've taught you how to make one, I've taught you how to set it up, and I've taught you how to show it. Now it's just a matter of handling it slightly. Okay, they only operates mildly differently. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come down to here, because this is my save button. I'm going to create my SaveFile dialog as a new SaveFile dialog. Complicated, isn't it? I'm going to set up the dialog now. Just like we did before, it's really nice to have a title to begin with. So I'm going to go SaveFile.title equals, and let's say this is them saving a file. So they've clicked the save button and now they're typing in a name for their file. So I'm going to go select a file name to save, ... Okay, now I'm going to do the initial directory again, but I want to show you something a little bit different. Now, it might be sometimes a good idea, if this is a tiny little program that maybe runs from the desktop, that you want the SaveFile dialog to open up where the program is currently running, okay? So not into my documents or into program files or something like that. We want to open up the folder where the program currently is running from. So what we're going to do, that comes from app domain, current domain, base directory, okay? So this gets you the folder that the program is currently running inside of, all right? And I'm going to show the dialog just to show you exactly what that means, okay? And I should put show the dialog here, because it's always good. All right, if I hit save file, you'll see I'm inside my debug folder, and that's because I haven't saved it, so that's why it's in temporary files, or projects I mean. And you'll see that I'm inside debug because there's my program. Okay, so it's just sometimes a nice thing to know about the base directory. Now I'm going to set a filter. Now we can set any kind of bloody filter we want. If your program has a custom file format and you want to make up your own file extension, you sure as shit can. Okay, so I'm going to call it my data file type, and I'm going to say it's an MDF, which stands for my data file. Okay, I'm sure there probably is an MDF, and I'm not talking about the timber. But yeah, that's going to set up my own file filter now in the SaveFile dialog. You see the save as type, which is really nice, and it's going to filter every file that's displayed as well with that data type. Okay, and I'm going to quickly put an if statement around this bad boy, and what we're going to do is set the text box to whatever file name they selected to save as. So let's go if the dialog equals true, just like before. Then let's set the text file name to SaveFile dot file name. So whatever we select in the SaveFile dialog, it's going to collect that as the file name. So let's go to save. Okay, you'll see that there's no items here because none of them have this file extension .mdf. I'm going to just type in test. Yep, and there's my file name. And you'll notice that it also, I didn't even type in a file extension, it actually puts it on. The .mdf is put on to the file name because I didn't actually select it. So that's a really nice thing for SaveFile Dialogs. The second thing, I'm just going to quickly change this to a docx just so I can demonstrate this. Let's say, for instance, that the file already exists and I'm trying to save over the top of it. How cool is that? I didn't actually program that. That's built into the SaveFile dialog. Okay, so I can actually click no and it won't do anything, or I can click yes and it's going to continue. Now, it's obviously not going to overwrite my file because I'm not doing anything with it. I'm not actually saving information to my hard drive. But that's how the OpenFile Dialog and the SaveFile Dialog work. So, if you'd like a copy of this project, I've put it out in the description of the video. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching. If you could like, subscribe, and comment down the bottom, I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video. This is Nick Dingle signing out. Catch you then, everybody.